Activating systems on.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Leadnap Gaming. Today we're going to assess the release of 3.8 quickly. We're going to talk about the Ares Q&A that just happened, and then we're going to talk about new ships to be released in 2020. So 3.8's been a mixed bag, mostly due to server-side object container streaming. I've only had one client crash myself and no 30Ks, so I'm going to say it's been fantastic. Except for, we now have NPCs that spawn inside of Atmosphere, which is cool, but that includes the scanning interdiction ships. And that's only a problem because, well, the other day I was leaving Hurston's Atmosphere and was doing 900 meters a second in my 600. They suddenly appeared, and poof, they suddenly wanted to scan me, and sure enough, you can't stop fast enough when that happens. So, level 1 crime stat. No big deal though, right? The new fine system to help with the crime stat stuff, we'll just go ahead and do that. Pay the fine, have no crime stat. Awesome. 20,000 credits for not stopping fast enough. Are you kidding me? 20,000. I mean, I have a friend who has over 360,000 credits and fines in like the first day. Let's just say the fine system needs some tweaking. I do think that some of that random spawning all over the place is socks related, which is pretty much the fault for a lot of people. Depending on who you ask, 3.8 has either been a total disaster or a flawless patch. Multiplayer action seems to be the crux. If you're running around solo, the patch appears pretty strong. But if you're partied trying to crew a mole, for example, it's been pretty rough. This would be that socks implementation I talked about last week. This isn't to say that it isn't without pain for single players. After all, for the most part, when you play by yourself, you don't notice some of these issues from socks. But elevators can still be glitchy, ships have floated away, and the client has a tendency to crash from time to time. However, those crashes are a bright spot, because in most instances, you're going to respawn back into your ship with its cargo. And if you had a ruck, it'll spawn back with what it had into it too. So, cargo haulers and miners rejoice, because most of the time, you're coming back after a crash to a game where your money is intact. I also think that a lot of these issues are going to be ironed out in a few weeks after CIG gets back from their winter break. 3.8 has been one of the more playable patches, glitches aside, and I think that even though the income values were adjusted and you also start with less money now, it's all been a good thing. It's still pretty easy to make money. And routes like FPS mining are now more viable compared to other professions as a result of the income drop. I've had no problems making 12K in 15 minutes, and a new quantum jump time is really opening up the possibilities for newer players. Really, the hard part is the middle income zone. It takes a little longer to really put the big money away to do large cargo runs and whatnot, but once you've got that starting capital, man, that cash flows like honey. Alright. So, you can also check out Area 18 for presents this week and sell them at the 10 North Tower, which is surprisingly lucrative, and it works to pay off some of those fines. Pro tip is use a rucksack, and unlike the now extinct turtles, these presents do respawn over time. I did find that using my flashlight for whatever reason made them easier to spot, even in broad daylight. I don't know, it's weird. On the topic of new releases, let's go ahead and jump right to the Q&A for the Ares that just came out. So, up first, batteries. Yeah, they're putting batteries into ships in the future, and it was casually explained as providing electrical power while the power plant's offline. Nothing weird here, and I'll take it. But there was one thing at the very end I thought that was really interesting, and then where they quote, offline for both redundancy and lower signature performance, which implies you'll be able to run on battery power like a diesel sub, generating a level of stealth performance in every single ship. The Ares will only fit in a Javelin, and it's going to use the large pads on the Kraken, so it's not going to fit on the Polaris, the 890, or the Idris. Though it is worth noting that CIG likes to give us safe dimensions, so the Ares might actually fit sideways in the Idris, for example. Star Citizens have a tendency to push limits. The Cat, for example, is officially stated to not be able to carry a Merlin, but plenty of Merlins have been loaded on Caterpillars. So, take it for what it is. The Ares is concept complete, so it's not coming into the verse anytime soon. This means the Ares is not the test concept ship for the manufacturer design language for Crusader, and if it still is, it means we're not going to see anything Crusader for some time. The Ares will not share the performance characteristics with anything else made by Crusader. It's going to have poor handling. On the one side, this seems like a later in the process decision intended to create balance, but it also suggests that at some point they might have realized that for a Crusader, you need to have the atmosphere tech for them to really shine. So if this ignores that kind of stuff, it could have come out without the tech being in, but at this point it's all probably just 6 in one, half a dozen in the other. CIG also killed its lethality. Now CIG is saying it certainly cannot solo a capital ship. We never should have expected that it would individually kill a capital ship, right? But they've been putting a lot more emphasis on the armor tech, saying that the size 7 guns really will have more value once armor tech's in the game, and ship weapons no longer operate on simple math damage models. Oddly, the Inferno is going to carry more ammunition than most ships do, imbalancing it against the other ballistic fighters. The final position on the Ares is this. It represents one of the poorest examples of changing sales practices by CIG, and is potentially the worst concept sale of 2019. We were talked up and sold a single-seat cap killer, which turns out to be bigger than advertised, less powerful, and more expensive in the power-to-cost ratio than any other single-seater, let alone most sub-capital combat ships. All while quietly banking on player expectation of new sales practices and Crusader excitement. Yes, CIG never said it would be straight to flyable, but they made implications to the base that these multi-year concept JPEG sales were going to end. They inserted Crusader drama at IAE, knowing people were super excited for it. They talked up a storm of straight-to-flyable announcements. They rolled the Mole announcement early, implying it wasn't straight-to-flyable, and then they sold the Ares into the confusion. Could it be a coincidence? Sure, but it appears if it was, that CIG certainly has benefited from it. Likewise, these predictions were parroted by every unofficial news reporting content creator out there, from Board Gamer and Morphologist all the way down to myself. CIG knew this was the common belief in the player base and never tried to correct it. They're not obligated to, but it's shady. It's a practice that doesn't speak well to their legitimacy, and dishonest developers right now are not exactly being given positive treatment from their base. There is a certain criticism, then, to creators like myself who tout theories and try to connect tidbits of data given to us in the vacuum of CIG's public relations. It is imperfect, and I do apologize when we've been wrong about concepts. I'll give the pretense now that the next part of this video is entirely reading tea leaves spilled by CIG on the side of the road. It is a legitimate question to ask now. Is CIG going to roll out any existing concepts in 2020? I'm not talking about the 3.8 ships that are going to dominate the release window for Q1. Those are 3.8, technically the Q4 patch of 2019. That spares CIG also having to release any new concepts in Q1 because the release sales from 3.8 are going to pay the operational costs. The problem stems to start with that the pipeline is more limited than we've ever been told. 2019 saw the Ballista, Mantis, Nautilus, Mole, and Ares either entirely be produced or concepted at a minimum. These all pushed roadmapped and existing concepts off the table and into 2020. Starting 2020 a quarter late isn't going to help anything either. CIG can be reliably depended on to release new concepts every quarter, as the income from those release sales is vital to the project. Q2 2020 indicates a rework of 2 ships, the M50 and the Cutlass Blue, which already exists, but not in a form we players can touch. It's never a good sign when you're reworking a product that's not even been released. I hear you, Taurus owners. Now, yes, it's premature to look at the 2020 roadmap, which doesn't exactly exist in full yet. We can only see to 4.0, which in theory is the Q2 patch, because Q1 is 3.9. But we all can bank on the fact that we're not going to get any 3.9 items until Q2 as a result of all of this. This is a misleading practice in itself, because while the White Knights of CIG are going to argue that 3.8 did certainly come out in Q4 of 2019, it did, but with only a few days to spare. Q4 ends in a week. The contents of 3.8 won't entirely be delivered until the very last days of Q1 2020. Realistically, 3.8 is the Q1 2020 patch. Yet, looking at the roadmap, all we have seen is existing ships fall off. The Ares is concept complete, meaning it really hasn't even been started yet beyond JPEGs. It's no more finished than the Polaris or the Orion. If we believe CIG, the Nautilus is further along in development. The Cutlass Blue is a reheat of the black and the next to be released red. The M50 is already flyable. Without the Ares, the easiest concept test, to be the manufacturer language test for Crusader, it's relatively safe to believe that the Hercules is shelved for more than just a little while. Given that Crusader ships really need two things to have value, planet atmosphere tech and armor tech, it shouldn't be a massive surprise that these aren't being made soon either. Banu fans have the Defender to enjoy, though it lacks its special sealed system, so no rush on getting the Merchantman out this year either, which did take another hit during CitizenCon, flushing the existing bizarre concepts to meet the new and fresh ideas promoted by the Kraken Privateer. The bottom line is this. The first part of the equation is a development schedule that is months behind. The next part is the need by CIG to continue to release new ship concepts for income, which we know from 2019 means existing concepts can't co-produce. The only ships from the 2020 patches to enter the verse will probably be new concepts either straight to flyable or, like the Ares, in JPEG form. We know that Squadron 42 is going to demand even more resources this year if they want to reach beta on their current proposed schedule. The end result of just this evidence is to give up any hope you've had that the ship you've been waiting for years is going to happen in 2020. It isn't all doom and gloom, though. Two more elements support this theory, and it's a positive. The first is the new UI tech rolling out. SitCon 2949 was refreshing, and that a lot of what they showed us we're getting in the first half of 2020. We just got SOX and Planet Tech. It's quite possible that we do get the new manufacturer-centric UI models in 2020, which, for the over 100 flyable ships in the verse, is quite an investment in man-hours on a small ship production team. I want my Murchie and Polaris as much as the next Citizen, but if all the ships in my hangar today had new and improved user interfaces by this time next year, I'd consider that a win. Which is also the weight of pull on the next piece. Armor tech, atmosphere flight model, physical inventories, and more. Every one of these major tech additions requires everything in the verse to be adjusted. Just look at the mole. Look at all the placement of EVA suit lockers everywhere. The Cuddy Black doesn't have those, nor do the Connies, which at least have lockers. But most other ships don't. Physical inventories is going to require a lot of interior remodels for player safety and storage. Armor tech may require some exteriors to be remodeled to make the proposed concept values match actual in-verse practice. So why can't we get old concepts out still? Because every new flyable ship is one more that needs reworking for every major tech release. If they cap that number where it is today, or at least in March of 2020, they can rework everything and roll out game tech we're all here for faster, more efficiently, and at less cost. Again, I could be wrong, and on Friday they could release a new roadmap with every existing concept drawn into the patches for 2020. But even if they did that, nothing holds them to deliver on it. The Carrack delay was a black eye, and sure, CIG does crap jobs of correcting player misconception and hope, but I do expect them to cover their own bases, and letting 2020 be a catch-up year, all while rolling out massive tech packages needed for both Squadron 42 and the PU, I see it happening. Fear not. There will be new concepts in 2020, but stay cool to the idea that we might not see long-awaited ships come any faster in this new year. In the comments section, or just to ponder by yourself, is that really a bad thing? Can you live with and be happy about getting all the tech implemented into the verse faster if that means waiting for some of our ships and seeing current ships meeting new standards? I think I can, but let's discuss below. As always, don't forget to like and share this video, subscribe if you haven't, and I will catch you all next time.